Welcome to another CityBilly DIY project. In this video, I'm going to show you how we made this coffered ceiling in our home office. Special thanks to Binford Tools for sponsoring this DIY video. Before we get started, I want to get you caught up on how we got to this point.
2 years ago, my wife and I found this crazy opportunity to buy a dilapidated estate on an incredible piece of property. The house needed a ton of TLC, but we decided to bet on ourselves, and we're currently in the never-ending process of turning it into our dream home. Part of the house had this oversized party room. It was roughly 22 feet by 23 feet. The original owners used it for recruiting parties for their home-based business. We decided to turn this room into our office, but we didn't need it to be 500 square feet. We ultimately decided to make the room 14 by 14. Instead of tearing out the bar, we walled it in to make a hidden speakeasy. We enlisted the help of some child laborers and began demoing the room. The wall on the right is load-bearing, so it had to stay. We removed the sliding glass doors, so weird, and moved that wall in 8 feet. The load-bearing wall was shortened to meet the new office wall, and we installed a 21-foot steel I-beam in its place. Then we framed and drywalled the new rooms.
Alright, now that you're caught up, I'm going to show you how we made the coffered ceiling in our office.
This room is 14 feet long by 14 feet wide. We measured 4.5 feet in from all of the walls and broke up the ceiling into 9 equal boxes using a chalk line. We then centered 2x6 boards over the lines and screwed them into the ceiling. I ripped some 2x6s in half to make a border around the room. For the boards that were perpendicular to the ceiling joists, we screwed through the drywall and into the joists. For the boards that were parallel with the joists, there was nothing solid in the ceiling to screw into, so we attached them to the perpendicular boards with pocket screws. The 2x6s will be the skeleton of the coffers. I picked out a fairly generic crown molding and then measured its height. For amateurs like me, the height or rise of crown molding is the distance between the ceiling and the bottom of the crown. It is a shorter measurement than if you just laid the molding on its face and measured top to bottom. The height of my crown molding was roughly 3 inches. I wanted the flat part of the beam to be about a ½ inch taller than the crown molding, so I used 1x4 poplar boards. 1x4s being actually 3.5 inches tall. I used poplar because it is easy to paint. I went around the insides of the beams and attached the vertical boards with wood screws. For the perimeter of the room, I wasn't able to attach the horizontal boards to anything because there's a gap between them and the 2x6. To make sure everything was square and secured to the ceiling, I attached the horizontal and vertical boards together ahead of time using pocket screws. I made a jig out of a scrap piece of poplar that was 3¼ inches tall. I used it to make marks on the vertical boards so that I could line up the horizontal board and have a 1/4 inch reveal on the inside of the beams. Then I attached the perimeter pieces to the 2x6s. I thought about trying to do it in one long 14-foot piece so there'd be less seams, but knowing me, I'd screw it up and have to do it in pieces eventually. Once the perimeter was done and all the vertical pieces were in, I used 1x6 boards to complete the rest of the horizontal center sections. I attached these pieces using brad nails. I made another jig that I drew a line on 1/4 inch from the edge that I used to line up the horizontal boards to keep the reveal the same. Here's a better look at how I used the jig to make the 1/4 inch reveal. And here's the room with all the boards installed. Then it was time for crown molding. The dreaded crown molding. Crown can be a major headache, but I've picked up a few tricks over time. I took 2 scrap pieces and mitered the corners. Then I put the pieces together in each corner, lining the miters up perfectly. Then I made a pencil line at the base of each piece so I had an idea of where to place the boards when it was time to nail them in place. Once I marked all 4 corners, I measured and cut the boards. I used the template to line up the miters one last time before nailing. Here's another trick I've learned. Put a piece of painter's tape on the base of your miter saw. Hold the crown in place, upside down, so the spring angles are flush with the base and the fence. Then draw a line along the base. This helps amateurs like me to hold the molding in a consistent position for every cut. If you haven't noticed, I'm a big fan of jigs and templates. Here's the ceiling with all the crown installed. I filled in all the nail holes and seams with wood putty and sanded everything smooth. Then I used an airless paint sprayer to put 2 coats of paint on the ceiling. Here's the final product. We centered lights in the 4 corner coffers and centered one in the middle coffer. I feel like doing the coffered ceiling really adds a cool accent to our home office. It makes me feel fancy when I'm paying my bills. Thanks for watching.